is Teresita Blanco de Artsy sister, and we're continuing with Saturnastra Lamina. This is chapter 9. The Abandons. Irving glances towards the ocean and notes a strange girl whose back is always turned to him, and when he sees her he realizes that he's dreaming, and relaxing he comments, "How is such a vivid dream possible? It is all thanks to the anchor. The anchor is a magic tool only useful in dreams, and we can share this dream sense to its power," you explain. "So what happens now?" asks Irving. "It all depends on you, but it's a little too late to give up on magic, at least for the next decade or two. And once the last abandon has been slain, you can give up the craft for good if you so desire," you say, bowing. And you add, "And when you wake up, I have a little present for you." "What sort of present?" asks Irving excitedly. "Just a new charm crafted from the remnants of your hound abandons, and it is very, very rare for something to remain of a beast that technically never existed," you explain. "After traveling for a month, you stumble upon a traveling caravan, and the leaders know what you are, so you automatically get amnesty for your companions. And this caravan claims to be from Ornas, and they still have their own folk language and gods and traditions. And over the years, King Bersame has made attempts to forcibly integrate these nomad clans into his kingdom, and it does not go well for him to have such an erratic element wandering about. And this particular clan made it is well through a mix of theater magic, grave robbing, and a bit of roadside thievery. And this particular man is led by James Rasvan, and he claims to have royal blood, and you have been traveling with this band for almost a week, and everything seems to be doing better, and no strange shapes seem to be lurking in the caravan, in particularly because Jano has words all around his home. Irving has been practicing some theater magic with a new charm you gave him, and he seems charmed by the strange-looking heart trinket with the asterisk on its center hanging by a chain to form a pendulum. And when the pendulum swings, he conjures up a German short-tailed pointer dog, along with a cute little white Scottish terrier, and regardless of how much Irving tries, he can only seem to conjure those two dogs in particular. And at first you would have attempted to explain the origin of the trinket, still that would imply opening imaginary wounds. And you're convinced that Irving would do better to treat the whole abandoned thing like it's just a bad dream, a nightmare one can easily dismiss. While hanging around the campfire, old Baldianos comes to you, and by now it is 5 hours before midnight, and most of the campers are asleep except for a few guards, and everyone is awake conversing with one of the children who is teaching him magic tricks. And Janos is beside you and asks plainly, "And what is your business with fellow Irving?" "Nothing," you say, folding your arms. You think I don't know what trinket he's playing with," he says, gesturing towards Irving's little pendulum, and resentfully is blissful in his conversation, and he's playing with his trinket with the other novice mages practicing theater magic, and he's trying to get his little doggies to do a trick, but they refuse to obey him, even though he summoned them. "I frankly do not see what the problem is," you comment, pointing, "and that's all that remains of the Alpha Canon Venatoricurum. And I recognize the asterisk at its center, and I've fought those hellhounds many times, but I barely escaped with my life. And tell me, what is it? Was it you who finally failed those beasts?" asked Janos. "The Imperial Guards, or whatever you call those must fell by random coincidence, and I'm not one to take all the credit. And we simply saw our chance, so we took it, and we got lucky," you said, putting your hand in your pocket and taking out a fragment of the Sphynx from the cemetery. And what became of the others inside your realm?" asked Janus. "I can't say. They were not assimilated as far as I could tell, but they were not in a normal state either. And have you noticed any new faces?" you asked. Janus frowns and nudges his memory, and chuckling he remembers that doing so would be utterly pointless, since all of the actions done by abandons would become undone after the death, unless they manage to assimilate someone, then they get erased. "And how much time is their life?" asked Janus. "For me, 8 years," you respond, and Janus was quiet for some time, and in part due to the fact that he had noticed the Bashmago eavesdropping on your conversation. And Janus felt uncomfortable near the Bashmagos, and revenants were famous for being violent for one reason or another. And the Bashmago is not different in this regard, and the Bashmago slowly has been growing into one of those murderous moves as of late, and he has been like that ever since he murdered that random hag. and you take your Sphynx force and fly out of the camp to bathe by the river, and the Bashmago usually comes along whenever you go bathing, and he usually stands to watch to keep out perverts from looking at you, and not that it matters much, the part of you that is not human tends to freak out anyone who is not used to looking at you. And after bathing, you comb your hair until it is dry, and you then clean out the feathers and remove the ones that have gone bad. And the feathers you remove, you put away inside your little bag for later purposes, and the Bashmago starts the conversation. The fairies inform me that you want to ask me about the old hag and why I killed her. I know why you did, and I don't blame you. Still, you cannot go about slaying every little thieving, lying, opportunistic bastard out there in the world, cause then we would only have you. You say, answering while braiding your hair. She had all those people wrapped around her little finger, and in less than half an hour I saw a bulk of men she had destroyed with her bad advices, putting evil thoughts in their head, and encouraged them to murder their wives and beat their children, and I could not allow such a dangerous person to go on living, he said, raising his voice. You do not know that death does not stop everyone, you say, smiling coyly. I have her ashes and bone with me, so as far as she has not risen, says the Bashmago, showing me an urn. Oh my, you are just full of it, you say, laughing. And forgive me for trying to protect you and the boy, says the Bashmago. I never asked you to protect me, and most of the time you can barely keep up with me, let alone be of any use to me, you say, looking sternly at him. Your words cut deeper than any knife, and must you always be so cruel, says the Bashmago, fading away. It was not my intention to be cruel. I was merely stating a fact, you say, lowering your gaze. And you start flying back to camp, and the sky is illuminated with stars, and the Titan moon is full tonight, and you notice that from above the strange shapes flying beneath you. And as you fly lower, you notice a flight of drakes, and drakes are pretty much like dragons, except that their hands are the wings, and like the noble bat. And this particular kind have feather scales with small horns running from the spine to their head, and they have a small tail with two extremely long feathers, and their face is also small but with extremely large round eyes, and since it is nighttime you cannot discern their coloration, however, based on their physical form, for they are probably emerald drakes. The drakes fly past the caravan, and since the camp is below, you decide not to follow after them, and you go check up on Irving and find him sleeping. And the friends inform you of what had transpired with Irving before going to bed. And Irving's teacher was an elf child of 10 years of age, and his mother had left their home because he had been born a magus. In homeschool, Cameron was quite dexterous with magic and a sleight hand of tricks, and during his lecture, Irving had asked the youth, "Why are you teaching me only magic tricks?" "Because will be more useful to you than learning real magic," explained Cameron. "How so?" asked Irving. "Because people don't want to see real magic. Real magic scares them. Pageantries they like. And if you get too riled up, you can always show them how you did the trick. And magic tricks put bread on their table. Real magic wins you nothing but enemies," said Cameron, looking serious. "But I want to learn real magic," whined Irving. "I will get to it later. For now, keep practicing with the deck of cards I gave you," said Cameron. And both shouldn't continue their magic tricks for 2 hours, and smiling, Cameron then said suddenly, "Lamina is awfully pretty." "You think so?" says Irving, pretending not to pay attention. "She turns heads wherever she goes," explained Cameron. "That is because she spends most of her time as a Sphynx," says Irving, taking out the pendulum to summon his doggies. And his favorite go-to was the pendulum swing left and right as if hypnotized. And guys go crazy over for a pretty face," says Cameron, and then he asks, "even if it is attached to a monstrosity?" "If you say so," says Irving, petting his goat horns. And Cameron eventually draws the subject together when he notices that he's not getting any reactions from Irving. And the fairies mentioned that Irving was indeed somewhat perturbed by what Cameron had said, and indeed he had failed to notice how other men saw you. And Irving remembered that the Bashmago's face would always soften when he stared at you. And you go to Irving's tent, and you're disappointed to see him awake. Then again, as a shepherd, Irving is a light sleeper, and the lightest noise rises him for his slumber. And so while groggy, he asks, "What happens when a mage dies?" "The good mages go to the happy place called heaven, where the other witches come through. The bad ones go to hell," you say, chuckling. "Ha ha ha, very funny. I mean, what happens to their magic? Does it die with them? And if my magic is strong enough, will I live on the same as the Bashmago?" asked Irving. "It depends. For many mages, the magic dies with them, and others take on new bodies, or they stay in this world like the Bashmagos, you comment." Do you mean like reincarnation? Cameron says that when you die, you reincarnate. And if you were good, you become a higher being, like an elf or a dragon. And if you were bad, you become an animal, says Irving, sitting up. That is just a working theory. Reincarnation doesn't work that way, and what defines good or bad actions anyway. And you may think you're acting well, but then you inadvertently cause harm to many. And when it comes to the matters of life or death, the living only have working theories and nothing more, you explain. But you do know, insists Irving, shaking your hands. I do, but I'm not going to tell, and you add, even if I told you the one and only truth of the world, this knowledge would do you very little good. Now go to sleep, sweet child. Let me see. Take. But when Irving, no, you say sternly. And when you head out of the tent, the batchman will command, just because you can speak with the dead people doesn't mean you know anything about life after death. And just because you are dead doesn't mean that you know more than I do, you snap back. True, I do not know why I linger here, and maybe I have some unfinished business, says the batchman. Again with that unfinished business nonsense. If you have some unfinished business, go and finish it and then come back and tell me about it or something. You say, taking on the Sphynx form to walk outside of the camp. And indeed, what the fairy had told you had left you paranoid, and it felt like there were 1,000 eyes following you wherever you went, and the fairy shockingly saying, if you do not want them to look at you, put on a top or something when you prance about in your Sphynx form. I don't wanna, you say, pouting. The rest of the night you amused yourself by speaking with a batchmago, and his mind was enamored with the idea that he had unfinished business, and for the life of him, considering that like he's under revenant, he could not remember what he was supposed to do. He would pass on if he willed it, but he was far too stubborn to leave the mortal realm to the living. And another week passes on eventually, and the caravan has drifted further south, and in another 3 months, spring will come again. And the caravan is currently bordering the Eastern Kingdom, and then the nearest city is Arrogant, followed by Dokai up in the mountains. And the caravan seems to be making its way towards Dokai, and they will need to travel fast to get there before the water closes out the only entrance out to the plateau. Not that it matters much, you plan on leaving them as soon as winter ends. And today Caramel has come to see you, and right now it is close to noon. And most of the adults have gone to the nearby town to either buy or steal provisions, or both. And based on his conversation with Irving, you can already guess that the issue Cameron hopes to discuss. And he finds you by the river in the middle of your bath, and he seems a bit embarrassed, and he knew you went to the river at this time. However, he could not guess at your intentions, and he had always a hygiene habit of some filthy human companion, who at most only bathed once a day. And when the Bassmago notices Cameron, he says, get out, get out. It's fine, Bassmago, it is nothing he hasn't seen before, you say disdainfully. And the Bassmago stares at you before fading away, and you then say to Cameron, well, what is it? I'm busy if you haven't noticed. I'm sorry, I will come back later, says Cameron, starting to leave. I won't be in the mood to answer your questions later, so tell me now, you say, urging him on. And Cameron, historically managing to maintain eye contact, says, I want to talk about your fairies. Your fairies giggling and sneering, you say, sure you do. And why do you want to talk about fairies? Are you unable to see them? I could when I was smaller, but I'm no longer pure of heart, says Cameron. One of the fairies tell you, one can simply stop being pure of heart. It is a wonder what Cameron was actually imagining, says another fairy, laughing. And when you stare back at him, he continues, I want to know how to make use of them, and can you do magic with them? I don't use fairies for anything. It is that rotten attitude of yours, part of the reason why you can't see fairies anymore, you say sternly. Everything has to have a use for something, and cannot be allowed to just be. Forgive my phrasing, says Cameron, and what I meant to say is, in what way do fairies help you? They help me by keeping tabs on Irving and on anything they consider of interest, you say, yawning. And do they know the location of every magic user in the world, asks Cameron. More or less, and what would that information be of interest to you? Are you planning to form a magic user army? A one-trick pony army is rarely useful, you say, narrowing your eyes. I don't understand. Magic users have abilities to make them stronger than normal people, says Cameron, sitting down, and he's probably planning to drag on the conversation, and by now you have finished grooming your feathers. And you get out of the water and perch yourself on a trunk and you spread your wings to dry them in the sun. After doing so, you tell Cameron, magic isn't everything. It has a statutory limitation, and there's a limit to how much magic power most persons can amass in one lifetime. But I thought that within a magic power, says Camilo, dropping his voice. Get that stupid idea out of your head. So what is your grand plan, reading? Get all magic users together and convince them to conquer the world for you? Or is it your desire to kill all non-magic users? Are you so naive to believe that if everyone uses magic, then you will not be an outcast? And will you then have those who are brunettes too, you say, chuckling? There's no need to patronize me, and that is not what I'm thinking. I just thought that we could form a community away from them, like a safe haven, he says. There's already something like that, and it is called the Tower of Suberus, you command. Irving says that the place is no good and that the leader's not interested in teaching real magic. He's just using his apprentices to make money, says Cameron. There are just some things that cannot be helped, and even when you have everything in common with other people, they will still find a reason to hate you. And that is just the distorted order of the world. Though frankly, the true being are people like you say, and then you spit on the ground. Wait, what? Says Camelo, taken aback, and before he has a chance time to respond, the Bashmago appears and picks him up. And I'm alarmed, Camelo screams, "Stop, where are you taking me? Back to camp. If you have not noticed, Lamina does not want to talk to you," says the Bashmago. And as soon as he leaves, you notice something interesting sparkling inside the water, and you reach down with your paw, which changes into the shape of a hand, and close to the river edge you find a talent. You take the talent and change its shape to the form of a coin, and you chuckle seeing as though it reminded you of the charms. And you put the little talent inside your pouch and finding the Bashbago command. For someone who does not use magic, you certainly do a lot of magical things. So what if I summon my apparel on a whim? It is not a matter to me what you think or anyone else for that matter, you command, pouting. It is certainly none of my business, but I'm just a bit curious of how do you do it, says the Bashmago. It is just as simple as having a summoning contract with a storage room, you say, smiling. Now I feel that you're just making fun of me, says the Bashmago, pouting. Maybe I am, you say, smiling. The next day, Irving finds himself alone, and Cameron is no longer teaching him practical magic, or any kind of magic for that matter. He was apparently using him to get on your good side. Then again, you do not care to discover the truth, and Irving did not seem to mind much either. He was already used to people using him to get what they want. And after Irving leaves, you beckon him to follow you to the forest, and frowning he says, "I already had my bath. I'm not here to talk about your hygiene or lack thereof," you say, taking the form of a human to pat his head. "No, little one, I am here to give you a present." "Ah, you remember my birthday," says Irving, smiling. You give an awkward smile and look left or right before saying, "Oh, of course I did." And you reach into your pocket and show him a coin, and Irving's mouth fades from his lip and he said, "You got me a single golden coin. Thanks, I guess." You flick his forehead before saying, "No, stupid, this is more than just a coin. It is a talent." "A talent," you say. "And what sort of talent are you going to teach me? How to control the results of the coin toss? Or is it just another lucky item, like a lucky coin?" says Irving. "No, it is a talent. A talent. Something you obviously lack, but good news, I discovered this talent and I'm giving it to you," you say. "I still don't get it, but thanks. It is the thought that counts," says Irving, taking the coin, and he's about to put it in his pocket, but you detain him. "Talents have to be used, and they cannot be stashed away or left for later," you say, smiling. "I really do not understand what you're talking about," says Irving, exasperated. "And just explain everything and use my words so I might be able to understand." You fold your arms and ponder on what to tell him, and in the end you tell him this story. "Remember that you asked me what happens when a mage dies? Well, sometimes when a mage dies, a part of him remains. It is just like the pendulum you got as a result of our encounter with the house. Well, this talent, if you choose to accept it, will give you the randomness of a skill of a mage that passed away. And you will have to cultivate them from scratch, but you will at least be good at something for a change." Now when his eyes, Irving says, "Cameron's mother is right. You do not know how to speak with children." "What did I say? Did I say something wrong?" you say coldly. "Nothing. You're just being randomly mean for the hell of it," says Irving. Bowing, you say, "My apology." "It's fine. There are some things that you cannot help," says Irving, chuckling, and he asks, "Well, before I accept the talent, do you know what sort of skill I will get from it?" "Well, this particular mage was good at astrology. And once you understand the power of the stars, you will randomly be able to do powerful or really weak spells depending on the position of the stars and moon. Cultivating this skill will require a lot of stargazing and memorizing of its pattern," you explain. "The That won't be necessary. I mean, another names all the things in the sky, but I observe their movements all the time because there was nothing better to do back when I worked as a shepherd. And I think I already have other movements pretty much memorized, said Irving, smiling. Perfect, you say. And the talent emits a faint blue hue, and then it turns into a blue flame. And you tell Irving, swallow the blue flame, and this talent will be yours. Irving eats the flame, and his eyes looked a bit dazed for a second, and he blinks twice, and then he commands, aside from astronomy, were there any other skills attached to this talent of yours? Nothing related to magic, but the mage was a really good wearer, you say, laughing. Ooh, says Irving, starting to walk back to camp. Hugging him, you say, I'm just kidding. The guy was a Fletcher, and you got the blast, and you go to the blast bin and start practicing fletching, and you just might be good at it as well. Shouldn't I focus on magic? Asked Irving. You can't be a one-trick pony, Irving. If you are clever about it, you might be able to combine two skills, you command. Don't count on it, says Irving, shaking his head sadly. The fair is in your ponder on which city or town you wish to visit, and the guild system treats some kindly outsider. And after examining the distance and the situation of the towns around you, you decide to visit society. You have an advantage there because your sister Melina knows people, and she can easily find a position for you and Irving. And after trading information, you decide to heed Melina's advice, and you take a more humane form, and you even surprise the feathers on your hair, and you even acquire new clothing for you and Irving before entering town. And as far as anyone can tell, you are a widowed lady and her son. At least that is the official story you will be telling everyone when you enter society. And you urge Irving to stick to his story even if no one believes it. And you make your way towards the manor in the center of the town, and it is close to one of the baddest. And society has the uniqueness in emphasizing of education of women, and even teaching them swordplay. Only society was like that because it was the #1 supplier of courtesans and female spies across the kingdom. And even while Irving learned fletching from a blacksmith, you were supposed to teach sword fighting to the niece of the blacksmith, Fiore Riget, and she was the third youngest daughter. And as was tradition in society, she would be educated as a boy. And most families could neither afford nor bother to marry all of their daughters. And in younger times, as maidens were sent to the temple to become priestess, and over the years, society had acquired a martyr status, and as such, girls destined to remain unmarried were trained and educated as boys, and after a trial, they could join the army and make their names and fortune through their sword. And as per tradition, women were taught by a female fencing instructor, and after a few hours, you met with the master of the house, Regis Liberi, and you simply nodded and smiled to confirm all the lies that Melina had told him. And it's a good thing he's such a generous patron of your system, and I respect most of his time quiet. He's never a very good liar, so he decided that the least he said, the less chance he had of being discovered. Alright, so that's enough for this chapter. Bye bye and God bless.